we're going to be working on a particular technique for constructing an argument. The Declaration of Independence is, among other things, an argument. Now, I use the word argument. There are two basic uses for this word that I want to differentiate. One is getting into an argument. The other is constructing an argument. Today we're working on constructing an argument. Constructing an argument is useful. You can convince people, you can get them to take action, you can change their minds, their hearts. Getting into an argument is the opposite. It is worse than useless. It is harmful. I try to avoid it when I'm at my best. I avoid getting into arguments, sometimes to a fault, because my dislike of personal conflict has caused me, and because of my southern upbringing where you're never to be impolite to people in public, has caused people to accuse me of dishonesty, and I'm not perfect, but it has also to do with my southern manners. But I do not like getting into arguments. I wasn't always at my best. I confess this, for instance, with Alexander Hamilton. We got into arguments. In what you would call the cabinet of General Washington, President Washington. I referred later to those cabinet meetings when he was Secretary of Treasury and I was Secretary of State as descending daily into the pit like a gladiator. Yes, Alexander Hamilton is the type of person who can bring out the worst in all of us. However, when I'm at my best, I do not get into these arguments. To differentiate this use of the term, I want to refer to a letter that I wrote to my grandson, who was named after me, Thomas Jefferson Randolph. I wrote this letter in 1808, and part of the letter what I wrote was, in stating the prudential rules for government in society, I must not omit the important one of never entering into a dispute or argument with another. I never saw an instance of one of two disputants convincing the other by argument. I have seen many on their getting warm, becoming rude, and shooting each other. So at the very beginning, I'm telling you we're going to work on constructing an argument, but I'm telling you not to get into arguments. This may seem like it is contradictory. It is not. It's because of the two different uses of the same word. Getting into an argument sends you on a personally combative course. Ultimately, eventually, you're insulting each other's families, each other's clothes, etc., and you hate each other. And no matter even, you don't have to raise your hand here, but how many among you, in getting into one of these arguments, be it in person or through epistolary correspondence, have suddenly found in the passionate throes of dispute that they were right? And even worse, you're wrong. Don't answer this out loud. This is just a rhetorical question. I'm a lawyer. We do that. Did you admit it? Especially in these situations, oftentimes, even in your day, a lot of these epistolary conversations, and in my day too, people wrote to newspapers and wrote pamphlets and had battles between each other with pamphlets. That was the technology that allowed the revolutionary ideas to spread so quickly. Our committees of correspondence, our pamphlets, that was our way of communicating, even though we could not literally see each other's faces. So when you're in the midst of it, this has become public now. Now other people are watching, maybe even commenting. Did you admit you were wrong? It becomes even more difficult. Some of you might have, but it becomes even more difficult. I wrote to George Washington once, it was in 1786, that the way to cause two friends to quarrel is to bring them into dispute under the public eye. So that kind of argument, there are uses for it. Like I said, I'm a lawyer, so if you go on to study law and become lawyers, first of all, my condolences. Second of all, though, there is a useful technique for that, for disputation in a courtroom, where you are not listening in order to understand each other. You are trying to pick each other's arguments apart because there is a jury, there is a judge. You are demonstrating two opposing sides for the jury and a judge in a court of law. That is useful. But in public conversations, we're talking about a different technique. So this other technique, constructing an argument, that's what we're doing. And it is quite the opposite of getting into an argument.